Are you focused on long-term or short-term goals and plans and decisions? Are you making decisions based on this week or the next year or the next 10 years? And do you have patience, or are you going to quit if it just doesn't work out in the next 6 months or so? This is another tough love episode where we make your business a little more sustainable by looking at the big questions and getting honest with yourself. Welcome to episode 154 of Explore Your Enthusiasm with me, Swiger. I help makers and artists build sustainable businesses by becoming their own best business expert. And one of the ways that you do that is by being honest with yourself and making decisions that are best for your business in the long term. So when you're first starting out, you're thinking long term all of the time because you're making big, business defining decisions. Like, what are you going to call it? What's your URL going to be? What are your products? What is your pricing? Maybe you're starting to think about what is your branding like. And then you switch to short-term decision making. You got to launch the next product. You got to take the next photo. You got to list the next thing. You got to get ready for the next show. And it's a real struggle once you get in that cycle of actually running your business and making sales and running your business and making sales. It's a struggle to step back and look at the bigger picture. And that is why I ask you to do exactly that in the Map Your Business book. And that's why people love that book and that process so much, is that it asks you questions that make you step back from the day-to-day running in your business and actually ask you to work on your business and think about your dreams and your goals and all of the reasons why you're doing this and where you truly are right now. And it gets you oriented in the bigger picture. And then it walks you through making smaller quarterly goals that are in alignment with your big picture, and then a list of actions so you can take action day by day that are in alignment with the big picture. All of that should lead you to getting to the bigger picture of where you want to be, the longer term vision of where you want to go. So I developed that process and that book to help you regularly step back and think of the big picture. But still, even if you have your goal in mind and you're taking actions to your goal, the truth of the matter is, day by day, moment by moment, there are going to be decisions that need to be made that maybe aren't even related to your goal. They're just part of running your business. Things like, should I order 10 pounds of supplies or 100 pounds of supplies? One is going to be cheaper in the short term and not cost me as much, but it might be more expensive in the long term if I get bulk discounts. Should I try a new product that might flop or might be a big hit? It's a bad idea in the short term. You should just spend your money on things that will make money right now in the short term. But it's a good idea in the long term because it builds variety and maybe brings in new customers and gives you all kinds of new opportunities. So that's the question all the time. Even if you're super committed to your goals and you're focusing on taking action towards them, you're still doing a lot of other stuff in your business that's going to come up and make you wonder, am I living day by day, or am I thinking about the big picture? So let's define what I mean by long-term versus short-term. Long-term thinking, let's start with short-term thinking, is immediate gratification. Money or rewards in the short term, but making only short-term decisions slows down your growth. If you are constantly cycling through what you need to do right now and only right now, and you're not making any decision that will get you prepared for the future, your business isn't going to grow. It's going to stay exactly where it is now. Long-term thinking is delayed gratification. It means you're making decisions that are going to give you rewards in the future, even though they may cost you now. And the decisions are going to be good for you or your business in a year or maybe 10 years. Now, this isn't just related to business. We have this in our lives as well, right? Getting a 4-year degree or a doctorate is a long-term thinking. You're investing time and money in the short term. You're making a lot of sacrifices for what you hope happens as a result in the long term. Exercising is a long-term thinking. In the morning, I do not want to get out of bed, but I know it'll either improve my mood, like we talked about in episode 153, or it'll make me healthier and live longer in the long term. So this came up because we were talking in a Starship chat, and a Starshipper said that she was really struggling to move from short-term decisions, which in her case was launching new things all the time and then closing them, and then launching them again and closing them. She was moving from doing that to having one consistent product and service that she kept doing long-term, not just in short bursts, but over the long haul. The hard thing is that those launches were quick infusions of cash. There is nothing like seeing a big chunk of money hit your account at once instead of slowly, day by day, making the same amount of money. Now, I think this is partly based on your personality. A lot of personalities or people who prefer safety and security would rather make $100 every day for 30 days, and some personalities would rather make $3,000 one day. It's totally up to you. Did I do that math right? Anyhow, it's kind of up to your personality, but based on what you're most turned on by will then determine the kind of decisions that you make. So going for that quick infusion of cash can have some long-term negative consequences if you wear out your people with too much launching and closing and you got to do it now kind of messaging. That can wear out your people. It can also wear out you, especially because you constantly have to be churning out new things and sending new emails. And it just gets you in this cycle of always doing that. And you kind of can't make money unless you do that. So you keep doing that. And it's harder to switch to a long-term strategy, which is where you have a product that people can buy continuously and it's not related on you launching it all of the time. So we were talking about that, and we were talking about the shift from short-term to long-term thinking. I think that every business goes through this at some point where you've just been like, I got to get through the next day. And then you like, I can't do this. I've got to get through the next day thing forever. I have to start planning bigger term. So maybe you're just getting ready for your next craft show and you're churning stuff out like crazy. But when you're done with that, you realize, okay, I need to step back and like have a ongoing production schedule that is sustainable, that will both leave me ready for these big shows and have stuff constantly in my shop. Now, other shops don't operate like that. They only do really hard work all at once, a big show or sale, and then an infusion of cash, and then they get shut down and they do a lot again, a big infusion like that. The thing is, neither one is right or wrong. For most businesses, you need a balance of both, and you need them at different times. And this also is going to be determined by you and your personality and what you're most comfortable with. If you are most comfortable knowing you will make the same amount of money every month and every week, if you do these same 5 things or 20 things, whatever it is, then you're going to want to build a business with that underlying it. Now that may grow slower in the short term, but be more long-term sustainable. If you're a person who likes immediate rewards, you might want to go with a business model that does a short-term, super hard work, super lot of marketing, and then super big infusion of cash. You may see the cash quicker in that, but you have to keep that up in order to keep going. So neither of these are right or wrong. I just want you to think about what suits you best. And if you're really stressed because you don't know if you can do another big launch and you can't do another big push, then you want to look at building a long-term model. If this long-term model is boring you, then you might want to go for a quicker, faster, harder paced, quick infusion. Either one is fine. And for most of us, we need to balance the things. And most of us are going to start first really big decisions, right, to start our business. Then we get in the grind of it. And then we're going short term, just dealing with what's in front of us. And at some point, most of us decide to move towards a longer term, ongoing, sustainable strategy. And you're always making decisions that are kind of both all of the time, right? There is no I only ever make long-term decisions, because you have to pay attention to cash flow, what's in your bank right now. So making a short-term decision will keep the lights on today, and keeping a long-term decision will keep the lights on in 10 years. And it will help grow your business so that you're not so stressed about keeping the lights on in 10 years. So I have a couple questions for you to ask yourself when you're trying to figure out, should I take the short-term win or the long-term growth? That's usually what you're trying to decide between. These are the questions to ask yourself. What's the immediate benefit of this decision? So pick away, I'm deciding yes on this. What's the immediate benefit? What's the delayed benefit? What's the immediate cost? And what's a delayed cost? And then with delayed cost, you don't just have delayed cost, you also have opportunity cost. What other opportunities or periods of time or whatever will you not be able to do because you said yes to this and you have that delayed cost? So immediate benefit, delayed benefit, immediate cost, delayed cost, and then opportunity cost. And by the way, you never know the opportunity cost. It's not like you're doing something wrong. You just honestly can't know that until after you've experienced it. So one example in my own business is doing Creative Live. I've been in talks to do another class with them. If you guys don't know, I've done 4 classes with them so far. You can find them all on my programs and books page on my website, tarswiger.com. When I do that, I fly across the country to their, in the past I've always done it in their San Francisco studio, and it takes up so much time. The flights there and back, of course, the full day of teaching. And the first time I did it, I actually taught for 3 days in a row. And then all of the days and all of the weeks preparing that class ahead of time. You work with a producer who, in all my experiences, I had a call with every single week for at least an hour each week for weeks leading up to it. Plus all the hours I'm working on it when I'm not on the phone, making the workbooks, making the classes, making the slides, making the bonuses, plus, buying dresses because I don't have that many dresses and teaching clothes to wear, getting your hair cut, getting fancy, doing all those things, right? That is usually an immediate cost, but a delayed benefit. Because being on Creative Live helps me reach a new audience. It then creates a product that sells and just continues to create ongoing royalty revenue. But it has a steep immediate cost because I have to spend all that time. And I have to spend money to get there and get back. And that's reimbursed later, right? I'm not getting paid for it for a whole nother quarter. Whereas when I make a class and sell it, I sell it and I immediately see the money. With Creative Live, I don't see it for another quarter. And then there's opportunity cost. The time I'm spent doing that, I'm not spending building my own thing, creating a new class, serving my own people. However, not doing it would be the opportunity cost of not meeting that audience, not having those relationships, which has led to all kinds of opportunities because I did Creative Live the first time. I got other teaching gigs and met all kinds of people that I've worked with. So that's an example of thinking about immediate benefits and cost and delayed benefits and cost and opportunity costs. Another time this comes up is when you buy things on credit. We've been talking about money for the whole month of March, so let's just keep being really honest about money. When you buy things on credit, you get a short-term reward. Yeah, I bought this thing I didn't have money for, but you get a delayed cost. You not only pay for the thing, but in most cases you pay for interest because you put off paying for it. So it ties up your future money, and that costs you future opportunities. If you right now have student loan debt or car debt or a credit card debt, none of those things are bad, but those are tying up your money that you might spend today in a different way if you hadn't made that decision and got that short-term benefit earlier. It's just something to think about. Again, not bad, just a thing to remember. The opposite thing you can do is pay now for something you enjoy later. So this would be like when you join the Starship and you pay for the whole year at once. You pay once and you get a whole year of membership. Or buying a 6-week course, you pay at the beginning of it and then you get the whole 6 weeks to take the course. So it's also like buying vacations where you have to pay ahead of time and then you just go enjoy it. It's an immediate cost but a delayed benefit. And studies have shown we actually enjoy and use something more when we've paid for it before we got to enjoy it. So you actually have an increased enjoyment of something you've purchased if you pay, have to wait a bit, and then use it. Isn't that interesting? Those studies are actually talked about in the book Happy Money, The Science of Smarter Spending. And I found them really fascinating because as an instructor and an educator, it helps me to know that you will get better use out of a class when you pay for it up front than if you put it on your credit card or you do a payment plan and you pay for it later. So that's super good to know. Also, this again depends on personality type, but all of these things are decisions where you have to decide between short-term benefit and long-term benefit. Another decision is like doing a new product. So in the comic book shop, there are always new lines of comics coming out. Jay needs to decide, do I take the risk of investing in this comic and maybe nobody buys it and it sits on my shelf, which is both an opportunity cost and an immediate cost. But the long-term benefit, the delayed benefit might be that it especially if it's in a different genre or it speaks to an audience that's not often served by, your classic 45-year-old male comic book reader. If it serves a different audience, then that could bring in a whole new audience. We talk about this all the time, making sure that the shop is inviting for all kinds of people everywhere on the spectrum of age and gender and race and whatever, letting them come in and feel welcome. And the way you do that is by having products on the shelf that make them feel welcome. But if they haven't come in yet, you see it's a cost and you don't know if it'll pay out. You have to wait and see if there's a delayed benefit. The same is true in your handmade business. The same is true in whatever you're doing in your life. You have to decide, am I willing to pay this price now because it's building the kind of thing I want to build? Or am I going to make a short-term decision for short-term rewards? So I hope that this helped you think about it. Really, I want you to ask yourself when a question comes up and you're deciding, you're pro and conning it, add in immediate benefit and immediate cost, delayed benefit and delayed cost. And if you look at what you're doing right now and you really feel like you're going day by day, just trying to get through today to get through tomorrow in your business, first of all, permission to be there. It is okay that you're there because it actually means you're making sales and you're doing things that are slightly bigger than you were able to do or you've ever done before. A lot of times when you get accepted into a show or you get a new wholesale order, you're in a period of crunch where you've never produced this much before and now you have to, and that's actually growth. So that's good. But you do want to look at how can I set it up so I am got systems in place so that I'm making maybe I'm costing myself some short-term pain right now to actually set up the systems. I know if it's setting up a new software, it's like the pain of it is huge, but if it creates some automation or some systematizing or some delayed benefit, it might be worth it to help your growth. So I want you to think about that, where you're doing it in your business. Where are you buying on credit? Where are you paying now for something and enjoying it later? Where are you setting it up? Here's the real key. You need to set it up so that you can short-term keep your lights on and long-term have something that you really love working in. And your balance of how those decisions work are going to be different for each person, but that's what I want you to keep in mind. Making decisions now that are good for you now so that you're making money now, but also are building towards something that's sustainable so you don't always have to work at this pace forever. So I hope that helped. I would love to hear your answers about immediate benefit and delayed benefit. You can leave a comment wherever you're listening to this, whether it's on YouTube or if you are listening over on iTunes, leave a review and let me know how you enjoy the podcast or share it with a friend. That's always great. You can find these show notes along with a downloadable transcript at taraswiger.com/podcast154. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a very beneficial and enthusiastic week.